down to blonde and just a little splash of paint in there. Patience, so I don't know if you've heard that, when you're painting someone else's hair, you got real patience.
It seems so. I mean, I'm very impressed with your skill set.
One hand on the brush, one hand on the gin. Gin so popular. No, exactly. We're just talking about the girl here. As a matter of fact, and I'm going out here in California. And so, rumor has it that you've been tap dancing a little bit for an upcoming project. I have. Don't say it like that. It ain't gonna happen on the show, guys. So yeah, what's inspired that? Well, I'm shooting a musical in Boston right now with Mr. Will Ferrell, this is a great deal. I'm very excited about it. He's been a comedy idol of mine for a long time, and it's weird because I'm working with him, and he gets to see up close me stealing from him to his face, which is amazing. But the movie's written for people who sing and dance, which we have no history of. You've really never done that. No, we're being taught by Chloe Arnold how to tap dance. She's like a tap god among other tap gods.
My money on that you're better than Will at tap dancing.
Will is amazing. He's an amazing athlete. Will's run multiple marathons, and people don't sleep on Will Ferrell. He's got
that going. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, how is everybody?
Here.
Don't all answer at once. Yeah, okay, that was enthusiastic. Well, I guess it's 9:30 and we're ready to go. Commissioner Hall, welcome.
What's that?
I said welcome.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
I asked how everyone was, and then Commissioner Byrd gave me kind of a Debbie Downer answer. And for that reason, and also because he's clearly superior to everyone else in this regard, I'm going to have Commissioner Byrd lead us in the pledge. But first, we need to call to order and do the roll. So, Mr. Smith.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I will call the roll. Commissioner Byrd.
Here.
Commissioner Hall.
Present.
Commissioner Maestas.
I'm here.
I miss you.
Commissioner Fishman.
Here.
And Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Here.
Commissioners, we have a quorum. The open meeting may proceed.
Okay, Commissioner Byrd, if you have enough energy, please lead us through the pledge.
Yes, thank you. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. I hope that woke you up a little.
Absolutely.
Okay. Consideration and approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mike, please call the roll.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioners, the agenda is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, we're on to introduction of special guests. And Employee of the Month, that's good to put under there. We've missed that for a while.
Michael, do you want to
Wayne?
go ahead and take it?
Yeah,
Yes,
Sarah or Wayne, whoever's doing this.
Mr. Commissioner, this is Michael Smith. I've been asked to present this. The employee of the month that was selected is an employee of the General Counsel's office, Isaac Sullivan Leshin.
All right.
Knows Isaac.
I agree.
We all love Isaac, yes.
Thank
So
you.
I will read the I guess the commendation, the text of it. It states that the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission hereby recognizes Isaac Sullivan Leshin, NMPRC Employee of the Month for July 2021. Whereas Mr. Isaac Sullivan Leshin serves as a paralegal advanced for the Office of General Counsel, Division of the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, and whereas Isaac Sullivan Leshin has worked for the PRC for 2 years, whereas his nomination states, Isaac Sullivan Leshin is a knowledgeable, dedicated employee. He is incredibly helpful, maintains an objective point of view, and he approaches each task with an attitude of willingness. Whereas Isaac Sullivan Leshin continues to serve the PRC with dedication and great ability, now therefore be it resolved that the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission of the State of New Mexico congratulates Isaac Sullivan Leshin on his selection as Employee of the Month for July 2021.
Well,
Commissioners.
Commissioners and Mike, thank you very much for the recognition.
Commissioners, any thoughts, comments?
Mr. Chair, I would just say, I think that's a very nice commendation. I would have gone a little further and talked a little bit about how Isaac really exercises his judgment in a way that I think is very productive when he's doing anything. But I've noticed that particularly when he's just been sort of party to conversations I've had with other attorneys. And yes, he's a paralegal, but he's a sophisticated paralegal. I think he has a lot of insight into workings of the law, and I value his insight. Plus, he's also very helpful in just the nuances of, I don't know if nuances is the right word, the details, the burdensome details of getting meetings put together and agendas put together. And I think Isaac has been a really outstanding worker in his role. And I think we're really, really lucky to have him. And I think this recognition is long overdue and richly deserved.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner.
if I may, I just want to say a few things about Isaac. The nature of what we do is, we kind of work in bursts, and the lead up to our weekly meetings can be a bit intense and hectic. And I think that we call on Isaac often in that run up to the meeting. So, he's always responsive and thorough. Not to mention, the last minute single signature orders. I mean, he is just responsive, thorough, quick, and he adapts really well to the nature of what we do, and his professionalism, I think, is stellar. So I think this recognition is deserving. And I guess, Mike, you're going to continue giving special parking spots at the para parking lot, or are we going to discontinue that?
I think there's a wide selection of spots available.
Okay. Good job, Isaac.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Well, go ahead, Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you. So I don't want to talk too much about it, but I agree with both Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Maestas. I think they said it very well. I will add that, you don't get special recognition just because you did your job. You get this recognition because you've done your job in a very good manner, very professional, as they've said. I think you've gone above and beyond. You've answered my requests and accommodated me personally, which I believe is above and beyond what you're required to do. And so whoever picked you saw that in your work ethic, and congratulate you for that recognition. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. Okay, I'll toss in a comment here is that Isaac, basically, you don't seem to be fazed by anything. You get it done. Whatever comes up, you just seem able to adjust and adjust in a way that minimizes any strains or unnecessary workload for we as commissioners. And you know, we know your work a little more intimately than maybe lots of others in the agency because you do a lot of work with us getting meetings ready and getting ready for the weekly meetings. But, you know, I just can't say enough about how helpful you are and how you really grease the wheels for everyone. And I hope you, quite frankly, look forward to taking on more senior positions in the agency as time goes by and do whatever it takes to get to that, because I just think you're terrific. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, we have another special guest that Commissioner Maestas would like to present.
Thank you, Sarah.
Certainly.
Mr. Chair, instead of waiting for matters from the commission, I thought I'd introduce my special guest, and he's no stranger to you all. He is my outgoing assistant, so it's bittersweet, you know, to take this time to recognize Jonas Armstrong. I'm sure many of you are aware. He accepted a promotional position with the Interstate Stream Commission, and he's going to be a part of the legal counsel's office, working in water law, which has been his dream. So I just want to thank Jonas for his service to the agency and let him know, at least from my perspective, and I think I speak for the whole agency, that we sure are going to miss him. He really raised the bar in terms of kind of the expertise and work ethic of our assistants. His leadership in the community solar effort has been stellar, and we're working on a very smooth transition. And so again, I call on Jonas. He's coming to us from California. He's on vacation with his family on the West Coast, but I wanted to maybe give him an opportunity to say a few words. But before I do, I'd like to open the floor to the commission and any staff before we have Jonas say a few words. And by the way, his last day is this Friday. Anyway, does anyone have any comments before I open the floor to Jonas?
Hi, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Isaac.
It's John Reynolds, actually. You told
Or John, sorry.
Sorry. I just want to appreciate the opportunity to wish the best to Jonas. It's been great working with him. He's a true workhorse. He's a good fit for Commissioner Maestas, that's for sure. And he's been so organized and staying on top of things, and working with him on community solar and a range of issues. It's been just great. So I have a lot of admiration for him. I congratulate him and I wish him all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hall.
Well, I would also like to recognize Jonas's contributions during the short time he's been here. He's just, jumped in with both feet and been productive from day one, and was very instrumental in helping get the community solar rulemaking organized. And I was just very impressed, and I regret he's leaving. I'm glad he'll be, pursuing his dream, but we'll miss him. He's been a tremendous contribution. And I think if we ever get a chance to get him back, we should try hard. In whatever role, wouldn't have to be a commissioner's assistant, but he's definitely a very talented, hardworking, intelligent person. So.
Well, I'll make a quick comment too, is that, apart from, I think we all recognize how much he gets done, and all appreciate it. But what also stands out to me is he's just got just a great demeanor and a great attitude, which makes him easy to work with and fun to work with, quite honestly. And it's terrific that he's brought that to the commission. And he's on that scale, he's even maybe a half step above Commissioner Byrd. So no, really, we really do appreciate his good humor and just the great attitude he brings to work, as well as the great work that he does. So we're going to miss you, Jonas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, commissioners, and John, for the kind words. It's hard to follow Isaac. He's an absolute pro. It's been a true pleasure to work with him in my short time with the commission. I've gone out of my way, frankly, to tell him that multiple times, which you don't often do with a coworker. But I wanted to jump in on the previous item and say, yeah, Isaac is one of a kind. And but on this point, I incredibly grateful for the opportunity to work for Commissioner Maestas and with you all for the last 7 months. Like Commissioner Maestas said, I couldn't pass up this chance to do some work that I've wanted to do since before I even went to law school. And being out of law school for 8 years and working primarily in policy positions, I think I owe it to myself to jump into an attorney position, given the opportunity. And I wasn't looking for this opportunity. It found me, and I'm just glad that it all worked out, but it is bittersweet, as Commissioner Maestas said. I've learned an incredible amount, I feel like, in a short period of time. That's hard not to do here at PRC. You all have such a big workload and such a high pace of activity, and such experienced other staff to lean on, that I was able to really, I feel like, absorb a lot of information in a short amount of time, and know that that's going to serve me well going forward. I know you all have a ton of important work to do, and the team you all have is really capable of doing it well. So I'm confident as a New Mexican that we're going to be well taken care of by this commission and this staff, who does an outstanding job of fulfilling its duties. So thank you all.
And I'm going to just agree with Commissioner Hall that as soon as you're done securing New Mexico's water supply for the next 50 years, you're going to come back to our commission. You promised to do that, right?
What's time,
no,
right? What's time?
Yes, good luck working on the water issues in the West. That's a huge challenge, and as I'm sure you know, there's even a nexus with energy there that can't be disregarded and is becoming more important as time goes by. So I believe your work here will enrich your experience there, and I do wish you the best. It's a very important job.
Commissioner Maestas.
No, I just thank you for those kind words for Jonas. He is going to do well and flourish. He's got a great foundation of experience, and then those Midwestern good guy values are going to take him far in the public policy arena. So we haven't heard the last of Jonas Armstrong.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you, Jonas. We're on to public comment.
We did have one person sign up for public comment today. Rochelle Mouchette, are you on the line?
I am. And congratulations, Jonas and Isaac. Isaac, can you present that image that I sent you?
believe it's displayed now. Can you see it?
Yes, perfect. Thanks. I wasn't sure if I could share my screen, so I just wanted to ask you to do it. Okay, so I just wanted to talk briefly about the Eevee charging. I've already seen what was proposed. I think it was $500, $500 rebate, and then for lower income, I think it was another $1,500. And the reason why I have this graph here is I really wanted to hone in on the fact that about 52% of New Mexicans make less than $40,000 a year. And I know probably most of the people on this call are further over on the right on this graph, right? And most of us, I think, can probably wait a few minutes to get, or, you know, a few months, sorry, to get back $500. But for the people that make $40,000 and less a year, they're living hand to mouth. They're living paycheck to paycheck. And the Eevee charging is very essential to Eevee rollout in general. So 1 out of 5, I've read that 1 out of 5 Eevee owners end up actually going back to gasoline. And the primary reason is because of home charging. So,
excuse me, of what? Home charging?
Home charging, yeah. So the rebate that I'm talking about is the level 2 home charging. Does that make sense?
You're talking about the cost of home charging or the cost of charging outside the home? Or you're comparing them?
I'm talking about a home charger. So
Yes.
I'm talking about getting it installed in the home.
Oh, the installation cost.
Right. So the installation cost and the equipment cost.
Yes.
I went and looked online, and the equipment can be up to $1,200, right?
Sure.
And then it also depends on the setup of how many amps they have, if they have an older house, right? So it can get complicated. So my suggestion to this committee is that you consider a point of sale mechanism. There's actually where is it at? The name, sorry. There is an app out there called Simple Energy right now that can do point of sale rebates with utility companies. And then I don't know if you were looking at like an approved set of electricians or vendors, but maybe you could consider working with them to provide payment, right? Because there's no way that somebody that makes $30,000 a year can, you know, pull $1,200, $1,500 out of their bank right now and not get it back for 3 months or 2 months, right? So we're talking about half the population of New Mexico that you know, we're not considering if we make them wait for their money. Does that make sense?
Correct. May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, just let me just interject though. We do have 3 transportation electrification plans whose cases are just wrapping up. We have recommended decisions from hearing examiners. And so I would just caution my colleagues about maybe opining on any other aspects of transportation electrification until we decide on the 3 cases. And obviously, we don't have a rule yet for transportation electrification. So we're basically operating off the statute, which required an initial submission of I believe a 2-year plan. And so we haven't acted on that yet. So just beware. Thank you.
So we can tell our commenter that we're hearing her, but we cannot tip our hand on any decisions because we haven't seen all the evidence yet from these cases. Just to make that clear to you as you're making your comments, which by the way, we really appreciate. So Commissioner Hall, go ahead.
So these are pretty benign questions, really. First of all, I wanted to know, what organization are you with? It says green something next to your name, but it doesn't, there's no room for all of it. I don't know.
Okay.
And it's not on our agenda.
I'm working on a green score. So I'm working on software that will help consumers be green. And obviously electric vehicles is going to be a really big part of that equation. So basically whatever you guys decide, whatever you end up executing and implementing, I will help consumers probably with a handoff of that.
Okay, so you're not representing an organization, you're representing yourself. You're just speaking as an individual, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask was on this graph, the y-axis, I guess it is, that says share. What share are you referring to?
It's share of the whole population. So if you add up all of the bars, it comes to 100%.
Oh,
so it's the distribution of the income of New Mexicans, and then it also has, the United States.
I see. This is just so this is income distribution, period. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I should have explained that.
No, that's fine. I understand. And your point is that the home charging equipment that needs to be installed is a financial barrier to adoption of electric vehicles by people with incomes lower than $40,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right.
Exactly. Right, which is half our population. So, and yeah, the other point is that it's key to us transitioning to electric vehicles in general is having the chargers at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your comments. We do have those 3 cases coming up for each of the separate utilities, and I believe we have RDs on 2 of them already. I haven't had a chance to read them yet. I'm going to do that after this meeting. But, for our hearing examiners, and Ashley, if you're listening, I think it'd be a terrific idea to set up on our agenda an overview so that we're from hearing examiners, so that we're getting an overview on how you've handled all 3 cases, so that we can, number one, look at some consistency, identify the areas where there are differences in the utility territories, and kind of get a handle on the bigger picture as we go forward, as Commissioner Maestas was pointing out, for an upcoming rulemaking that we should be doing on this. So please, I'm sure you're listening. Please consider doing that and give us some feedback on whether that makes sense. But I think it's a good way for us to be sure we're fair and consistent across all the service territories of the various electric utilities. And I'll just make a personal comment. It looks to me more like 55% of New Mexicans are 40K or under. And yeah, we have to look at that really carefully. So thank you very much for raising this issue.
Thanks for hearing me.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty, there's a stark fact in this graph that shows that for 20,000 under, we exceed the national average in terms of income. I think that's unfortunate. And of course it's unfortunate, but I get the point. And I think we're fine. This is a policy matter that is being discussed. I don't think this, is anything that, in my mind, translates automatically to anything in the cases as well. So,
and I'll make one other comment just to put an exclamation mark on the point. So I've done a lot of work in the consumer finance area, and almost all of those people, 40,000 and under income, do not have enough money in the bank to handle a $400 emergency expense. And so it's pretty easy to see what kind of an impact it could have on adoption of electric vehicles and the expenses attached to that. So anyway, it's something that we have, that at least I have very much in mind, and I think the rest of the commission does as well. I think this is a commission that does really care about being sure the lower income cohort, if you will, gets fair treatment. And thank you for your comments. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Byrd.
While we're under public comment, I was remiss not to bring it up at the time. I kind of made an assumption that we would, but did not. Jason Marks did a very good verbal in memoriam of Herb Hughes, former commissioner.
Yes, he did.
I would like to ask that we take a moment in silence to honor former Commissioner Herb Hughes and to thank Jason Marks. He's not on here, but he is watching on YouTube. So I just want to say thank you for his portion of honoring Mr. Hughes. And again, I asked if we could just do a short moment of silence in honor of Mr. Hughes at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hall.
Say, I also wanted to mention that I thought that was a particularly moving homily, and I learned many things about Herb Hughes I never knew. And I'm grateful that Mr. Marks gave us that information, and I wholeheartedly agree about doing a moment of silence.
Commissioner Byrd, would you lead us in that?
Absolutely. Please observe a moment of silence for Mr. Herb Hughes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing that today.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. Okay, on to next item on the agenda. And we're on to consideration and approval of professional services contracts. And I'm assuming that Mr. Probst will be presenting that.
I will, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm actually going to be co-presenting today with Renata. And since I didn't have an opportunity to introduce her at the last meeting, or she wasn't able to attend the last commission meeting, let me do that very briefly, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Renata Perry-Galone joined us about a week and a half ago. It feels like she's been here longer than that, considering all the work that she's gotten done in that short period of time, but it's hard to believe. I've known Renata for most of my career in state government. We were both legislative finance committee analysts about 17 years ago. Renata was an analyst, I believe, for almost 7 years. I was at the LLC for just 2. And Renata was a much better analyst than I was. But after the LFC, we kind of went different directions. I went to the Retiree Healthcare Authority, as you know, and then, of course, the Public Employees Retirement Association. But I always kept in touch with Renata and followed her career. She went on to bigger and better things, ASD director at CYFD, and held a number of other positions, or at least one other position there too, I believe, as budget director. But I had an opening for ASD director at the Public Employees Retirement Association. Can't remember the exact circumstances of how Renata and I reconnected, but we did. And it didn't take me long to decide that I wanted to bring her over to PARA. And we worked there for a number of years before she went on to help establish the new early childhood development department. Renata is a consummate professional. She really is, when I say this, and I don't want to embarrass her, but she really is considered one of the very best ASD directors in all of state government. It's been a pleasure to work with her. She helped us in a number of ways at PARA to strengthen our financial controls, address previous audit findings. And that's why we're here today, Mr. Chairman, and recommending and appreciate your consideration of the contract for Burrell LLC. I usually don't refer to that because I know the principal of Burrell is Anthony Armijo. Anthony is also somebody I've known almost as long as Renata. When I was an LFC analyst, I was responsible for the Department of Finance and Administration. And at that time, Anthony was the comptroller for the state of New Mexico. And for those of you not familiar with state terminology, the comptroller for the state of New Mexico is essentially the state's CPA or the state's auditor. And I had an opportunity to work for those 2 years that I was at the LFC with Anthony. At the time, he was implementing the share system, which was a major undertaking, a major project for the state of New Mexico, essentially replacing the old accounting system and payroll systems. And I got to know Anthony at that time. He really is, and I don't want to embarrass him either, but he really is truly one of the kindest human beings I've ever met in my life. One of the most sincere, one of the most understated, one of the most hardworking. Like Renata, I sort of lost track of Anthony for a while. I left the LFC, Anthony retired. When I got to PARA, there was just, Mr. Chairman, I really don't know how to describe it, but I'm not really a numbers person, but I just didn't really feel that we had strong oversight of financial controls. At PARA, we had had a number of significant audit findings, and I was talking to our ASD director at the time. It wasn't Renata. It was Renata's predecessor, and I just kind of mentioned this uneasy feeling I had, and Sylvia was her name, our ASD director. She said, well, you know, Anthony's retired. He's set up his own firm. He's working with a number of state agencies to help them establish strong financial controls, transparent financial controls. Why don't we just bring him in on a small contract, have him look at not the entire PARA system, but look at a part of it and see what he finds and report back to us. And I said, fine. So we brought Anthony in. He was there. I'd see him in the office. You'll never see Anthony without a suit and tie on. Even on a Friday afternoon, I'd see him walking around with a suit and tie on. He got to know the staff there very well. The staff loved working with Anthony. And long story short, Mr. Chairman, he spent a couple of months on the project and sent me a nice email and said, Wayne, I'd like to come in and brief you on my findings. And I said, of course, come on in. He came in and he went through his findings, only half of which I probably actually understood. One of the things about Anthony is he creates the most amazing Excel spreadsheets you've ever seen in your life. They are truly works of art. And he probably had a few of those in there too, which likely confused me. But at the end of his presentation, I said, Anthony, we've known each other for a long time. I'm going to ask you a simple question. I said, if you were me, if you were executive director of a $15 billion trust fund, how would you feel about the state of our financial controls and financial oversight? And I can hear his voice as clearly today as I did 7 years ago when he, without pausing, without hesitation, and again, being one of the most understated people I've ever met in my life, looked at me and said, Wayne, I'd be terrified. And I said, okay, that's all I need to know. And that began a relationship. I believe Anthony is still on contract at PARA, but he certainly was on contract throughout Renata's time there and my time as well. And he really got into our finances, our audits, working with staff, training staff, explaining to them what he's looking for. And over the course of the 6 years or so that he was on contract with PARA, that the association had no audit findings at all. So anyway, Mr. Chairman, a bit of a background, a little bit of a story to let you know that we have, both Renata and I have worked with Anthony for a number of years. I believe Renata brought him on as well in her previous job before joining us here at the PRC. And we believe, Mr. Chairman, that this contract will not only help Renata, but help the entire agency address some longstanding issues that the Commission is well aware of, and do so very quickly. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to Renata to briefly go through the scope of work, and then we're open for any questions you might have.
Welcome, Renata, and please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I just want to say that I'm very excited to be part of the PRC team and excited to move forward and address, prior audit findings and look at better ways to streamline processes. That's kind of my background. I'm always looking for ways to improve things. And Wayne was close. I was actually almost at the LFC 8 years, which is really a long time for an analyst to be at the LFC, but I was there for 8 years. This scope of work, this is work that Anthony had done for PARA, and actually Wayne is correct. I brought Anthony on when we stood up the brand new agency, the Early Childhood Education and Care Department. And the reason I brought Anthony on is I knew I wanted a strong financial foundation for that new agency. And I knew he could provide that because I saw the work he did at PARA. So the main part of this contract, Anthony has developed what he calls a tool, and it's an Excel-based worksheets, and it's numerous worksheets in which he develops trial balances that create the financial statements that are the core of your audit. So it's kind of an amazing thing because the way that became a tool, and I saw that really driven at PARA, is we were able to reconcile to share on a monthly basis using that tool. So instead of waiting for the end of the fiscal year to do your audit and kind of run those trial balances and look at things and then discover kind of what the issues are, you know, as an agency, this tool that Anthony develops, you can reconcile monthly so that you're addressing things as the fiscal year is going on and not waiting till the end of the fiscal year to address it with the audit. Part of that tool, and he kind of customized this for ECCD, this was not something that pertained to PARA, he created a CFA report. So, and that is something we do need for our audit because we do receive federal funding at PRC. So that will also be part of the scope of work. And then the last component is just to provide guidance and assistance with the audit. I'm hitting the ground running, I'm learning, but definitely somebody with Anthony's expertise and background only benefits the process. Anthony is a CPA, and as Wayne mentioned, he was the former state controller. He developed, well, he was there when SHARE was basically implemented. So, you know, his knowledge is just, it's just tremendous of just budget, finances, state government. I find Anthony always to be a joy to work with, and he's one of those people that really enjoys improving processes and working with agencies to make things better. I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioners.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I take it the objective, oh, and welcome, forget my manners. It's very, very wonderful to have you on board, Renata. So I take it then we are contracting with Anthony, and I guess Borrell, is that his last name, Borrell? Okay.
No, that's the name of his company, Borrell
Okay.
LLC.
Okay. Anyhow, we're contracting with this individual in order to get the benefit of the use of his Excel tool that he's developed that allows us to track our financial matters and identify issues on a monthly basis rather than at a year-end basis. Is that roughly correct?
It does both. It helps us to reconcile to SHARE monthly, but it also produces the trial balances in developing the financial statements for our annual audit. And it will create also the CFA report that we will need for our audit. So it does, it does both in that it helps us reconcile to SHARE on a monthly basis, or if we choose quarterly. I always like doing more than less, but it also helps us in developing those financial statements and the CFA report for the audit, the annual audit.
Okay. And what's this? Are you saying HEPA or NEPA, or what are you saying? I don't know what that report is.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the trial balances and then the financial statements, and that's all goes into the audit report. He basically, and I'm maybe not enunciating, but it's the trial balance is the Excel worksheet that he develops. And it,
right. No, I got that part.
Okay.
It was just some acronym I thought you were saying.
Oh, CFA, I'm sorry.
CFA.
It's the schedule of expenditure for federal awards. And I have to even look to remind myself because I use the acronym CFA, but it's
Yeah.
the schedule expenditure of federal awards. And that's a report we do have to provide with the audit.
Okay, great. And so this is the sole source contract because of this product.
No, it's a small purchase. Actually, he's always been deemed professional service. So it'd be a small purchase professional service contract.
Right. Okay, super. Thank you.
Other commissioners? Okay, I've got just a couple quick questions. I'm perceiving this as kind of a project that's a jump start to get us better on track in terms of our financial security and our practices and our ability to track what's going on. Is that a good way to look at this contract?
Mr. Chairman, I think it is. Another term I'd use, a sports metaphor. I think Anthony brings instant offense to this endeavor, but definitely a jumpstart that works as well. This isn't all we're going to be doing. We don't currently have, for example, we don't currently have a chief financial officer. Our ASD director, Renata, serves in that dual role. I think an organization of the complexity and sophistication of the PRC needs a chief financial officer. I don't think we necessarily need to go to the legislature to ask for that position. I think we can probably find a current vacant position and maybe reclassify it. But yes, Mr. Chairman, that is certainly a way to describe what we expect out of Anthony.
So at the end of this contract, folks that are currently working in administrative services will have better tools to do their jobs. Is that again a correct way to perceive this?
Mr. Chair, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And would you anticipate there being follow-up contracts or not? And if there were follow-up contracts, what would they be?
Mr. Chair, at this point, I do not. I will say, you know, if there's a need for anything auditing wise, he's probably the first person I would look at for assistance. But at this point, it's mainly getting the tool set up and the financial foundation. That's what's really important to me.
Okay. And then one final question, and this is, I don't know if you can really answer it, but maybe just to give assurance to the public as much as possible, is that both Wayne, both you and Renata are familiar with Anthony from the past. This does not need this. This does not require bidding this kind of contract. There's always somebody out there, and with good reason, who's worried that this is kind of an inside deal, or there might be a conflict of interest because of past relationships. Is there any comments you can make about that in this context? And just to kind of reassure folks, you've been great about talking about his past expertise, but what else might we want to know to be comfortable on that score?
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, I certainly think that's a fair question to ask, and I can certainly also understand if that is a question that's crossed other people's minds. My relationship with Anthony has been purely professional. I don't have a personal relationship with him. I don't see him at church. I don't go out with him to have a margarita. It has been purely professional. Gotten to know him well, of course, over the years, and have tremendous respect and even fondness for him, just because I've seen how he operates, how he treats people, how he treats staff, how he brings people along and builds consensus and trains and helps people to do their jobs better. So I've become very fond of him as a person, but my relationship with him is strictly professional.
Okay. And Renata, go ahead.
It's the same for me, Mr. Chair. I've only had a professional working relationship with Anthony, but I have just a lot of respect for him, just his knowledge and what I've seen him be able to do. I say this, every state agency should have an Anthony. I mean, really, I mean, it's amazing what he can do and what he sets up. So no, it's just a professional working relationship that I've maintained with Anthony over the years.
Okay. And one last shot for other commissioners to ask questions or make comments.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a concern. Since we have appointed a new chief of staff, it didn't take him long, maybe just 2 weeks. I don't know. My guess is 2 weeks to let go of our previous ASC director, Jim Williamson. And it didn't take very long to bring in Renata. And before we can welcome her to the organization, we have on the agenda $200 an hour firm, an accounting firm, to create an audit, a pre-audit before the end of the year. And the chief of staff and Renata can say, you know, how well they know Anthony Armijo. But here at the commission, we make the final decision. And I also learned this morning that we don't have a chief financial officer on board. And I am aware of one individual that works on the financial side. So how many staff members do we have in Administrative Services Division that primarily work on the financial statements for the agency?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm actually appointed as the Chief Financial Officer. The agencies have to have a CFO. So I did, you know, Wayne has to submit a letter to DFA with my resume. And DFA did approve me as CFO for PRC. That being said, you know, my years of experience and my background have been budgeting, and it has been procurement. I'm also a certified procurement officer. So right now, there is one position that is fairly new that was created to be a general ledger person. And then there is a budget and finance manager. So those are kind of the two positions I think that have been helping in regards to pulling things in the past or even presently for the audit. I wasn't sure, did I answer all the questions there?
So where does Annette Reynolds stand in your department?
She's the budget and finance manager.
Okay, so you only have one person, which is Annette, working as a budget and finance manager, but you are waiting for somebody to come in for the general ledger position?
Yeah, that position was, I think, filled before I came on board with an internal candidate. And that is an accounting and auditor A position for the general ledger.
Okay. This question is for our chief of staff. I read somewhere when you became the chief of staff that the audit for Public Regulation Commission for the previous year has been the worst audit findings that you have seen. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, first of all, good morning, Commissioner. It's nice to be with you again. Yes, I'm not sure if it's the worst, but I've seen a lot of audits in my career, starting 17 years ago, working at the Legislative Finance Committee. One of the responsibilities of the Legislative Finance Committee analyst is to track audits for the agencies that the analyst is responsible for. So I've seen many audits from GSD, General Services Department, Department of Finance and Administration, the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. We, of course, had to produce an annual audit at the Retiree Healthcare Authority when I was there for 4 years, and then 9 years as the executive director of the Public Employees Retirement Association. And, you know, I don't want to overstate it. Audit findings happen. It doesn't mean anybody did anything wrong or intentional. But I think it's common knowledge, certainly to the commission, that the last audit for the PRC had a number of fairly significant audit findings. And those need to be addressed. I'd like to say that we will have cleared all those audit findings in this year's audit. I don't think that is likely to be the case. And that's one of the reasons why I want to, as the chairman said, jumpstart this process. Because when you talk about building a model agency, when you talk about hiring good people, when you talk about retaining the good people that you have, when you talk about bringing on contracts to assist the commission, technical contracts to assist the commission in the very technical details of the cases that you are responsible for deciding upon, your budget, your finances, your accounting systems, your financial controls are fundamental to the agency being able to do all of those things. And without strong financial controls, without transparent financial controls, it's going to be difficult to carry out the mission of the commission as you have said you want it to carry it out. I want to make sure that we are keeping the good people that we have. I want to make sure that we're able to promote them. I want to be able to go to the legislature and say we've got these audit findings under control. Therefore, we'd like to request some additional resources. But until we address some of these issues, and it was some of the findings in the last audit are pretty significant. Whether it's the worst I've ever seen or the second or third worst, maybe I should have chose my words better. But the point is that they're serious, and I know a lot of work has gone in previously to try to address those, and I want to make sure that we finish that job.
Wouldn't it be the proper way to address the commission and bring up the serious issues? We're making decisions in the dark as of this morning.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we can certainly be happy to schedule a session with the commission to go through prior audit findings. I think we'll have a fairly good idea in the next month, a couple of weeks to a month, in terms of whether or not past audit findings will be addressed this fiscal year. I'm certainly happy to do that. But I think that might be a good working session once we've got a better idea of how many of the past audit findings we'll be able to address this year and how many may carry over. And if we might have additional audit findings from the past fiscal year.
Mr. Chairman, I believe this contract is premature. We have not been consulted with the serious findings to pull this type of a contract before the commission. I need to get some background information. That's the things that we've learned going through a hearing examiner. We got to build a record, we got to analyze it, and then we make a decision. I don't want to talk about any other agencies. We're concerned about our agency at the Public Regulation Commission. And I always try to get answers from our staff members as much as possible. Why is this action being taken today? Or why is this activity happening today? You hear me, transportation cases, there's emergency order that's in front of the commission, but it happened 3 years ago. I'm not afraid to say, well, you have 3 years to bring it before the commission. You could have called an emergency meeting if it's an emergency situation. In this scenario, I feel the same way. I feel that I don't have the background information to hire a consulting firm or a financial firm at $200 an hour. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other commissioner comments?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? This is
Yeah.
Commissioner Maestas.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, mention that we had a very lengthy presentation on the findings from the most current audit, in addition to a presentation of a specific corrective action plan regarding the most recent audit. So I support this effort, but what I do recommend is that perhaps we identify which specific audit findings this contractual effort would address. I realize it may just, we've done a lot of work since we had the exit conference from the auditor, but we were briefed in great detail on the status of our audit, and there were some recurring findings, and I commend our financial staff for being proactive and making this attempt to improve our financial statements and at least take these steps to better ensure clean audits going forward, and as a means to address recurring audit findings that relate to the scope of work of this proposed contractor. So I support the effort, but perhaps at a subsequent meeting after we take action, maybe if we could have a follow-up just to specifically identify which particular audit findings this effort would address.
Wayne and Renata, perhaps I think it can be done fairly briefly, given that we went through the detailed presentation, as Commissioner Maestas pointed out not too long ago. We can outline the issues now, if you like, or perhaps wait for next week's meeting to do it. How would you like to proceed?
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, first of all, I think Commissioner Maestas' suggestion is a good one, and we'd be happy to do that. I don't have the audit in front of me, so it might be a good idea if we could just wait a week, but happy to do that. And of course, if the commission approves this contract, Mr. Armijo will be available to commissioners as well to discuss individually with you or to present on what his findings and how he's progressing on his scope of work at an open commission meeting at any time.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioner comments at this time?
Mr. Chair, I guess I just wanted to say that I appreciate the seriousness of our audit situation, and I appreciate our Chief of Staff's effort to address our this situation, and Renata Piri-Gallon's effort as well. And so I look forward to being able to, hear the presentation. But I hope we don't delay getting about the work that needs to be done. We brought a new Chief of Staff on, and he's making changes, I think, for the better. And well, of course, it's always nice to be prepared to receive new information. I think we also have to understand that the commission's role is not to look over the shoulder all the time of the Chief of Staff. A Chief of Staff is the individual who runs the business aspect of the agency, and our role is to make decisions in the regulatory realm. So I feel satisfied with what I've heard today, but I'm perfectly willing and interested in hearing more of the details about the particular audit findings. But it doesn't change my opinion that I think we should approve this contract as soon as possible.
Okay. Are you ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
Okay. And yeah, I think we've kind of had enough Commissioner Byrd, do you have anything you wanted to say on this before we vote?
No, sir.
Okay, so let's do the roll.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
No.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
No.
Commissioners, the contract is approved by a vote of 3-2.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, appreciate it very much.
Sure. A couple thoughts going forward, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. I think it's a really good idea, by the way, to have a review of the key issues, just to summarize, because we did have the detailed presentation. But if you and Renata come back and kind of tell us the key core issues and the consequences of not taking care of them at next week's meeting, I think that'd be terrifically helpful for making Commissioners Byrd and Commissioner Vicente Aguilar more comfortable. And I think we should always be doing that. Wherever there are disagreements, and I think we should always be finding a way to accommodate concerns of people where we have a disagreement on the commission. Because you lose a vote doesn't mean you should be out of the issue. And, I think having that kind of collaboration is really important and frankly makes us better. So if you could do that, that would be very, very helpful. I will comment that I like the fact, and there may be some disagreement on the commission about this, that you're hitting the ground running and you see the issues very quickly, and you're not humming to address them. You're going after it. And, I think that's a good thing. So thank you for doing that. And if we have any issues about what you're pursuing, then we'll have a chance to talk about them next week. And thank you for bringing this forward, both Wayne and Renata.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Renata, and both of you, thank you for being forward-looking. I appreciate that personally. So,
absolutely.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you. I just want to talk to basically our chief of staff here. I do agree with Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. A little more information would have been helpful. But I understand why you're doing this. I actually didn't decide to vote no until they asked for what specific issues were going to be addressed by this contract. And you didn't know, or didn't answer, at least give us, as you've said, we've said, we saw the audit findings. So what are we addressing from that audit with this contract? And you didn't give me anything to continue. And that concerned me. There's a lot of money for general funds. I would have thought you could have given us some specifics. So it's not that I disagree with the process or what you're doing. I think in the end, this will be a good thing. I voted no simply because there was no detail provided as to what we're going to spend this money on. So anyway, that doesn't mean I don't support the effort. I just wanted you to know why I voted no. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I think everybody knows how we need to communicate going forward to get everybody comfortable and on board. And let's be sure we do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda. Consideration and approval of prior meetings minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Let's take the roll.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioners, the minutes for the April 28th, 2021 open meeting are approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, next. I'm dependent on the screen for looking at the agenda. Thank you, Sarah.
Consent. Consent.
Consent, thank you.
Yeah.
So any comments on the consent agenda? Any changes that we need to make?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
And lacking any comments, let's take the roll.
Well, they have to be read in.
Oh, wait, yeah, let's take the roll and read it in.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the consent action items are case 21-00174 TRM in the matter of the application of Mountain Air Fire and Rescue for reissuance of certificate number 14303 to provide ambulance service. This is a potential order regarding application for reissuance. Case 21-00175 TRM in the matter of the application of Estancia Volunteer Rescue and Fire for reissuance of certificate number 20222 to provide ambulance service. This is a potential order regarding application for reissuance. Utility matters are case 18-00016 UT in the matter of the investigation of the impact of the Federal Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 on all utilities in the jurisdiction of the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission. This is a potential order closing docket. In case 20-00157 UT in the matter of the formal complaint of Martin J. Dorado against Excel Energy. This is a potential order regarding the formal complaint. I will take the roll. Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
The consent action items are approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, on to regular action items. And again, I don't have my screen. Sarah, what's going on here?
You can't see the screen?
No.
All we have is a white line.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
I quit doing that years ago.
Now can you see it?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Byrd, we all work really hard to try and keep you between the lines. It's a challenge, but
That was the best reaction I've gotten out of you so far.
Okay, on to transportation matters. In the matter of the formal complaint of Wendy Goodridge against Loco Movers Incorporated. I don't think I'm missing anything here. Okay. Potential order regarding formal complaint and directing investigation. Hans.
Good morning, Chairman and fellow commissioners. The matter comes before you on the formal complaint of Wendy Goodridge against Loco Movers Inc., which was filed on June 24th. And upon the notice of filing of July 23rd, 2021 email from Wendy Goodridge regarding satisfaction of the complaint. Complainant had initially filed a complaint against Loco Movers indicating damage to her property during a move that was not reimbursed by allegedly not reimbursed by Loco Movers based upon their damage policies. Loco Movers and the complainant have subsequently entered into a settlement and concluded with a settlement agreement to complainant's satisfaction. Complainant emailed us and indicated that she had agreed to the settlement and that the formal complaint could be dismissed. However, the commission does have the option to review the complaint further if it feels it is in the public interest to do so. At this point, the proposed order then would introduce docket for the case number 21194 TREN, as initial review of records have indicated that Loco movers may be operating without a certificate before the commission. So the proposed order would require Transportation Division staff to file their report of their investigation into the docket by August 18th, along with any proposed penalties or fines that may be assessed if it is indeed found that Loco Movers is operating without an application or certificate before the commission. As to the formal complaint itself, since it was resolved to the satisfaction of the complainant, I recommend no other action be taken as to the individual formal complaint and the complaint be dismissed. And I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I would move the order.
I will second.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you. Hans, thanks for bringing this up. I guess want to give my perspective, even though I probably shouldn't. Mike will be griping at me in a minute. You know, crap happens. I hope that our goal here is just to get them into compliance, help them get all the paperwork in order that they should have done. I assume, knowing our transportation staff, that that's exactly what they're doing. And of course, they'll be looking to make sure there wasn't intentional. But I just want to put out there that, you know, our goal should be to help people comply, not make them comply. So anyway, that's all I have to say there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I would, and that's a great comment, by the way. I hate people to look at us as, for anybody old enough to have seen the original Ghostbusters, the environmental compliance inspector in that movie is a perfect example of what we do not want to be.
Right.
Right?
You get slimed, man.
Yeah, that's right. We want to help people get to compliance. So I think your comment is spot on about who we should be striving to be as an agency. Any other comments? Okay, Mike, please take the roll.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
And Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioners, the proposed orders are are approved by a vote of 5-0.
In the next item is 21-154 UT in the matter of the petition for declaratory order or in the alternative application of a San Juan Solar Project LLC for determination of the right-of-way width for San Juan Solar Gentai. Potential order. And Michael, please take it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, by way of background, this application is this matter is brought in connection with San Juan Solar's application, which sought a determination approving a 200-foot right-of-way width for the Gentai transmission line that will run from the common point of collection for the 200 megawatt capacity solar generating facility that would be owned and operated by San Juan Solar One LLC and the related 100 megawatt 100 megawatt capacity solar storage facility that will be owned and operated by San Juan Solar One Storage LLC. These projects were approved as replacement generation resources in case 19195, and the contracts were specifically approved in case 20-182 UT. The specific issue that's in front of the commission is San Juan Solar's response to the commission's June 30th, 2021 order, which required San Juan Solar to make a responsive pleading addressing whether its application for right-of-way with determination under section 62.9 3.2 was complete because San Juan Solar did not file an associated application for site location approval under section 62.9 Just by way of background, this is an unusual case because I believe this may be the first time we've received an application for right-of-way with determination without a location approval application. The statute that's at issue is section, as I said, is 62.9 and that provides the commission with jurisdiction to approve the construction, and I'll quote the statute, construction of any plant designed for or capable of operation at a capacity of 300,000 kilowatts, that's 300 megawatts or more, for the generation of electricity for sale to the public within or without this state, whether or not owned or operated by a person that is a public utility subject to regulation by the commission, or of transmission lines in connection with such a plant. The statute goes on to state that a transmission line subject to such approval requirement is defined as, quote, any electric transmission line and associated facilities designed for or capable of operation at a nominal voltage of 230 kilovolts or more to be constructed in connection with and to transmit electricity from a new plant for which such approval is required. The request was made to San Juan Solar to address whether the location control statute applied to its project because the project is comprised, as I stated, of a 200 megawatt capacity solar generating facility and the related 100 megawatt capacity solar storage facility. Each would be utilizing that same gen tie, which consists of a 345 kilovolt line of approximately 7.25 miles that will run from the common point of collection for the solar generating and solar storage facilities. So the issue was whether the combined capacity of those two, the nameplate capacity of those two facilities should be combined to meet the 300 megawatt threshold that would trigger the application of the location control statute. The responses were received by, from San Juan Solar, Public Service Company of New Mexico, and the Commission's Utility Division staff. Although parties to cases 19-195 and 20-182 were invited to submit responses, none were submitted. San Juan Solar's response argues that the location approval statute is not required because the project is not a plant designed for or capable of operation at a capacity of 300,000 kilowatts or more for the generation of electricity for sale to the public. San Juan Solar argues that the battery storage portion of its project is not generation, and the project is designed to deliver only 200 megawatts of generation of electricity generated to the grid, that the engineering specifications will not allow San Juan Solar to exceed that 200 megawatts, and the project's share of interconnection facilities also prevents it from exceeding 200 megawatts. San Juan Solar argues that the 100 megawatt of storage capacity, which is 4-hour battery electric storage, is not generation because it does not generate electricity, but instead only stores previously generated electricity for later dispatch to provide reliability and balance the intermittent nature of renewable resources. San Juan Solar notes that all electricity contained in the storage facility is to be generated by a different facility, including energy from the grid, and the storage facility provides capacity value to PNM by allowing PNM to time shift electricity generated by those other facilities, including that San Juan Solar generation facility. San Juan Solar also points out that FERC has recently determined in the Broadview Solar LLC case, which was issued in an opinion issued June 17, 2021, that energy storage capacity is not generation and should not be included in the overall generation capacity of a project. I would point out, however, that that is an opinion that was issued in connection with PURPA's requirements, rather with the issue under PURPA of interpreting the 80 megawatt limit for determining whether a qualifying facility is a small power producer under PURPA. It's not obviously directly applicable to the commission's issue in front of it under the New Mexico statute. San Juan Solar also notes that during the case 2182 testimony, Mr. Falgren from PNM had provided testimony identifying which permits and approvals were going to be required for the San Juan Solar project. And at that time, location approval was not one of the approvals that was identified as being required for the project. Staff and PNM filed, as I said, filed responses, and those responses concur with San Juan Solar's analysis and the conclusion that storage is not generation and that location approval is therefore not required for this project. So I have there's really kind of 2 points to this order. I'll go on to address the procedural aspects of this case. This was basically a threshold issue that the commission needed to make before determining whether the application was complete. The recommendation that I have would be to to accept the arguments that have been made that the location control statute is not applicable to this project, and therefore make a determination that the right-of-way with determination application is a complete application and can be proceeded to be addressed by the commission. Because this, I think the commission should be aware that obviously that there was a request for expedited approval for this project, and this is one of the projects that was the subject of PNM's presentation, its compliance filing, recent compliance filing, and its presentation to the commission about the need to get the replacement resource projects online for the 2022 summer peak season. And that was underlying the applicant, San Juan Solar's application in this case, asking for expedited approval. So what we attempted to do in the initial order was to provide that if there was a determination made that the location approval statute was not implicated, that the application, that we would schedule rather a public hearing, which is required under the right-of-way with determination statute for the commission's August 11th open meeting, subject obviously to potentially being vacated if it was determined that location approval was required and the application was not complete. So at this time, what I have put in the potential order is a provision requiring San Juan Solar to clean up a couple of or satisfy a couple of informational issues that we don't have satisfied in terms of being able to move forward on its application. One of those was the issue of whether San Juan Solar had served notice of the public hearing on the affected landowners as required by the right-of-way with determination statute. That issue was resolved yesterday because San Juan Solar did file proof of service on those affected landowners. So that's, at this point, I don't believe is an issue. The remaining issue, however, is whether any party may oppose this application for right-of-way with determination. And because the commission's initial order did not require positions or testimony, what this order would require is for those parties, which at this point I think are just going to be staff and PNM, to make a filing by Friday indicating whether they oppose the application. So that can be resolved. The third issue is San Juan Solar has indicated in its application that it was confident that it would obtain the consent of the remaining private landowners with whom it was still negotiating at the time it filed its application. By my reading of its testimony, that's the New Mexico State Land Office, Tucson Electric and Power, and Public Service Company of New Mexico, PNM. They were confident that they would get those approvals by late June of 2021. However, I don't believe San Juan Solar has, at this time, updated any of its testimony or filed in support of its application to provide evidence that it has obtained those approvals or consents from those remaining landowners. So what the order provides is that if the parties under the statute, if all the parties to this case, which are the affected landowners and any interveners, all consent to the right of way width that's being sought, that in this case is 200 feet. That's 100 feet in excess of the 100 feet that's required under the statute. That if all those parties agree, then there is no need for a public hearing. The order provides that staff, PNM, and any other party in case 20-182 shall file a pleading by 12 o'clock noon on Friday, August 6th, stating in their position on San Juan Solar's application and whether they intend to file substantive testimony in this matter in support of that position. It also would require San Juan Solar to update its application by filing a verified proof of any consent of any affected landowners or tenants to the 200-foot right-of-way width in support of its claim that the application is unopposed. Those filings would also be required by 12 o'clock noon Friday on August 6, 2021. The order provides that in the event that San Juan Solar files the consents from the affected landowners and no party intends to file any substantive testimony, then the public hearing that's scheduled for August 11, 2021 may either proceed as scheduled, or the commission may choose to grant approval based on the lack of opposition by the parties as the statute provides. An alternative would be that even if San Juan Solar has not obtained those approvals and consents, the commission could still grant conditional approval without a hearing based on San Juan Solar obtaining those consents and making compliance filings demonstrating that they have received those necessary approvals and consents. Obviously, to the extent that they were unable to obtain those consents from the State Land Office, Tucson Electric and Power, and PNM, the commission's consent would not be effective. So that's another way that this could move ahead without the necessity of holding further delay in holding a hearing in front of the commission. So it's really a matter of whether the commission wants to entertain and hear testimony from the applicant on this issue, or whether the commission wants to essentially grant a conditional approval or not. So,
sure.
Questions?
Commissioner Hall.
So, it sounds to me like the interveners do not oppose the project. What the holdup is the company finding, being in receipt of the consents they need. They satisfied the notice requirement. It seems to me a conditional approval would be the best way to go because it saves agency resources. We have a lot of work to do. We don't need to add one more hearing if we don't need to. And if we do need to, we'll find out. But, I don't know whether, it doesn't seem likely in this case that we would need to, but, I don't know what the holdup is with them getting their written consents, but to me, that seems like a pretty straightforward, simple process that can go forward without us having to have a hearing on following. Time is money to a project, and even a delay of a week could add to the cost, and it seems reasonable to just provide a conditional approval upon them turning in the required consents. So I would make an order to approve the make a motion to approve the order based on the commission choosing to provide a conditional approval based on requirement that San Juan Solar make compliance filings when they obtain them. The approval, the compliance filings, meaning the approval documents that they are still waiting to receive.
Other input?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Mr. Chairman, I think the order that clearly gives direction to the negotiating parties to file a verified proof, that's probably the best way to go, and leave the door open for any opposition if another party would like to oppose the order, then we should allow that to happen. We know that P&M, they need to show proof of any solar projects that they like to initiate. These are the requirements, the right-of-way issues, allowing the private landowners to speak their voice. I'm not going to shut the door on them. So the process to go through the procedural order is more beneficial as far as the commission is concerned, but that's only my take. But I'll allow the other commissioners to speak. Thank you.
Mike, a quick question for you.
Sure.
At this point, is there an opportunity for any new interveners to enter this case and protest?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, actually, that's what I was about to interrupt and I guess explain a little better. The initial order provided that any of the parties from 19195 or 2182 could become parties to this case without the need for filing motions to intervene as part of a means to move this case forward quickly. The initial order only requested positions on the issue of whether the location control statute applied. So what this order would do now is basically say, if you oppose this project, getting right of way with determination that they are requesting, which is the 200 feet, that a filing to that effect needs to be made by Friday at noon. And then, so basically we would look at what is filed on Friday at noon. And if nobody opposes this right of way with determination, then I would put this on the agenda as basically on the consent agenda for next Wednesday, stating for the commission to grant the approval. The question then becomes whether it's a conditional approval based on whether they've actually gotten the approvals and consent from the affected landowners or not. If the company files on Friday that they have gotten those consents and approval, then it would just be a plain approval. If they have not gotten all the consents and approvals that they need, then it would be a conditional approval.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hall.
So let me ask a follow-on question to Mike. So therefore, Mike, is it true that my order would not preclude the concern expressed by Commissioner Vicente Aguilar about the need to leave open the door for any interveners opposing by filing on August 6th. That issue is still protected, in other words, right? Even though we would issue a conditional order. Essentially, the conditional order wouldn't be able to go forward if there were opposition, correct?
Mr. Chairman, yes, that's why I was saying we would set it up the way I just stated, and that would still allow, the positions of any party that may oppose this. But at the same time, set it up so that the following Wednesday, we would just issue an order based on what was filed on Friday. And so if there was no need for a hearing, then, we can cancel that hearing that is currently scheduled.
Okay. So the issuance of a conditional order today doesn't preclude any opposition being filed. And if nothing is filed and no opposition is filed and the proper notices are filed, then what we would do next week would be to not have a hearing, correct? Because it would be unnecessary.
Well, actually, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, what I was proposing, the way I've set it up is that if there is a filing made on Friday by the company that it has all its approvals,
right?
Then next Wednesday, we would issue an order, just a simple order approving the project based on the fact that it's unopposed.
Mm-hmm.
If they have not been able to get all their approvals, then it would be a conditional order approving the project.
Correct.
So the order, we would not be entering the conditional order today. We would just be setting it up for that process.
Oh, fine. Okay, fine. All right. So, Mr. Chair, I would move the order as stated by Mike today.
Good. I want to check
I'll
back.
second.
Okay, we've got a motion from Commissioner Hall and a second from Commissioner Byrd. I wanted to check back with Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. I want to be sure that you have a clear understanding of the motion in front of us. So thoughts on that, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I talked to Michael Smith 2 weeks ago about this case, and he set up the order with my concern. So it's been answered. Thank you.
Okay, so as I'm understanding it, Mike, is that if somebody's got a protest to file who was involved in those other related cases, they have an opportunity to make that known. And then we'll make our decision next week based on what we hear. Correct?
Correct. Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Okay, terrific. Any other comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chair, this is
Yes.
Sarah. Commissioner Maestas, I just want to state for the record, Commissioner Maestas had to drop off to attend a funeral. So he is no longer on the call.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the one thing I would clarify is that based on the receipt that we get at noon on Friday, I would basically have the commission issue a single signature order canceling the hearing. Unless the commission has decided now that it does not want to do it. I mean, we could also determine now that we're going to cancel the hearing for Wednesday based on the fact that if there is opposition to the project, then we would have to, and that's what the order provides right now, is we would vacate the hearing on the 11th and provide an opportunity for the filing of testimony and response testimony, and then try and get it rescheduled as soon as possible.
So Mike, is there any reason that we would need to do that immediately on Friday, do a single signature order, where we could just wait till the Wednesday meeting and take a vote? Because I'd prefer on an item that has this much impact that we have a full commission vote as opposed to a single signature order. I think it's kind of it's more procedural, more than substantive, but this is a fairly big deal.
Well, Mr. Chair, it seems like we're covering the substantive ground in this discussion now. And if the proper paperwork is turned in, I see that as a purely procedural step at that point. We're voting now to approve that process.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, basically what we're trying to do is avoid having people get ready for a hearing, hearing examiner, and if it, in fact, the commission doesn't want a hearing, and the project's unopposed, then there's really no need to make everybody prepare and bring in a hearing, a court reporter. I may have said a hearing examiner.
Yeah. Okay, point noted, because, okay. Any other thoughts, questions from commissioners? Okay, let us take the roll.
Commissioner Maestas is absent, so I will start. Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioners, the order is approved by a vote of 4-1. I mean, excuse me, 4-0.
Okay, on to item number 7. 21 double lot 169 UT, the matter of Southwestern Public Service Company's 2021 IRP for New Mexico. Potential order regarding Sierra Club's motion to extend deadlines and request for variance. And Judy, please.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. The reason I brought this before you today, it's a fairly simple order, but it is a request for a variance from our rules. And we, it's our practice to bring variance requests before the commission and not place them on consent. That being said, this concerns Southwestern Public Service Company's 2021 Integrated Resource Plan for New Mexico, case number 21-00169. SPS's 2021 IRP was filed on July 16th, 2021. And according to our rule 17.7.3 NMAC, comments would be due on or before August 5th, which is tomorrow. Sierra Club last week filed a motion to extend the comment period, and it requested 15 days, an additional 15 days until August 20th, 21 to file its comments. And it requested an additional 15 days to all subsequent deadlines provided in 17.7.3.13. Staff and SPS were asked to file pleading stating their whether they objected. And on August 2nd, staff and SPS both filed pleading stating that neither objected to Sierra Club's request for a variance from 17.7.3 NMAC to extend the deadline for filing comments to SPS's 2021 IRP by 15 days until August 20th, and to add 15 days to all subsequent deadlines. Therefore, the proposed order would grant Sierra Club's motion and request for a variance, and would add 15 days to this deadline for filing comments and 15 days to all the subsequent deadlines. And I stand for questions.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Hall.
if there's no discussion, I move the order. This is very straightforward.
I'll second.
We've got a motion from Commissioner Hall, a second from Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. Any other discussion? Mike, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
The order is approved by a vote of 4-0. My apologies, I'm having trouble counting today.
That is a high number for an attorney.
Yeah. Are you to, please don't ask me to count past 2. It would be quite difficult. Communications with Chief of Staff.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm used to it being the afternoon by the time you get to this agenda item, so it's nice to see you in the morning. Just a couple of things. First of all, I kind of want to add to what was said earlier about Jonas and Isaac. I can assure you, Mr. Chairman, we're not going to let Isaac go anywhere. And the first chance we have to bring Jonas back, we will bring him back, but certainly wish him the very best of luck in his new position. I know it wasn't an easy decision for him to make, but I understand it. And on behalf of the staff, want to both thank Isaac for all he does, but also wish Jonas the very best. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I sent an email that I had sent to staff earlier today with an update on the Bochum building, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. You may not have had a chance to see it because I did send it just before you convened, but if commissioners have any questions about that after you've had a chance to look at it, of course, happy to talk to you about it. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, we, as I've mentioned before, we are in the middle of putting together our FY23 appropriation request. Senior staff will be meeting on that again this Friday. And I think, Mr. Chairman, once we've done that, even though we won't have a final recommendation for the commission, it might be good that we brief the commission on it either at next week's meeting if there's time or the week after, so that you at least have a preview of what we're thinking in terms of that appropriation request. And with that, Mr. Chairman, happy to answer any questions that you or other commissioners have.
Commissioners? Wayne, I think you're off the hook.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Communications with General Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, I want to thank the commission and recognizing the value of Isaac to our agency. Our concern we always joke about with him is we all say that he needs to go to law school so that he can get his license, because quite frankly, he's almost like having another attorney in our office. He has great instincts when it comes to the law, and it would be great to see him go and get that license. The only problem with that is it would be a loss to the agency for 3 years, because I don't think he would be working for us at that time. Yeah. But we think Isaac's great too, and thank you for the recognition for him. And also, I want to wish, I didn't get a chance to say it while we were talking about Jonas, but I had a long conversation with Jonas, wishing him well privately, and I'll do the same publicly. I wish him the best of luck over at the Interstate Stream Commission.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for General Counsel? I'll just make one comment is, I'd love for you to coordinate with Ashley and get on the agenda when appropriate, just kind of an overview of what's happened with the 3 transportation electrification cases. So we see the picture writ large before we make decisions on the individual cases. So if you would do that for us, I would much appreciate it.
I can have a discussion with him about that. And I will either get it on the agenda or I will report back to you.
Okay, terrific. Thanks, Mike. And the reason I'm asking you is if there's any legal issues with that, I figure you can iron them out directly rather than commissioners getting involved. So thank you.
Correct. That's why I need to talk to him, make sure that we don't raise any issues or create any issues, rather.
Right. Okay, thank you. Okay, communications with commissioners. Let us get back to work bunch here today. No more meetings. Well, terrific. Thank you all. And until next week, we are adjourned.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.